going to be my review for the movie Green Room. This came out in 2016. It's listed in IMDb as 2015, but it actually wasn't released until May of 2016. It happens every once in a while with certain movies. I think it just has to deal with when they get completed versus when they actually get released to theaters. So this is another movie that was on a lot of people's best of the year lists. And even before it started coming onto those people's best of lists, I really want to check it out because this is the next movie by writer-director Jeremy Saulnier. And his last movie in 2013 was Blue Ruin, which I really liked. I think it was pretty close to making my top 10 that year. That's a really good movie. And so this is his follow-up. And it's a pretty basic plot line. It follows this punk rock band, and they're just, really trying to scrape by, and shows them at the beginning they're, siphoning gas just to get to the next gig, and last minute they get like a pretty crappy gig, and then they're just gonna pack it in and head home, but they get told that they can get a pretty decent paying gig, and it ends up being at a neo-Nazi kind of skinhead bar, but it pays pretty well. So they go and do that, and after their set, one of the members witnesses a pretty horrible event, and then they're kind of trapped there, and the rest of the movie is just them trying to get out of this pretty crappy and dire situation. So I don't want to give too many plot spoilers away, but it's not a couple things aren't that spoilery, so I'll say them a little bit more here later, but I wanted to get into the cast. So there's, four people in the band. One of the main actors and the main band members is played by Anton Yelchin, and other than him, we also have a girl in the band played by Alia Shawkat. Probably recognize her from Arrested Development. Oh, and by the way, Anton Yelchin. So I also really want to watch this because he just, tragically passed away this year, or 2016. A really freak accident. His car crushed him into his a brick mailbox. It was like a fault with the car. So I was just really sad. He's only 27, 28, in a ton of movies. I think the first thing I saw him in was Alpha Dog, and he's been in all the new Star Trek movies, and he's in Terminator Salvation and Only Lovers Left Alive, which was a couple years ago. It was really good. So it was really tragic that he's passed away, but so he's a big name in this. And then so they're in the band. There's two other actors. I didn't recognize them though. And then so what happens is that they're in this skinhead bar, and Anton's character is going back to the green room, and he sees that there's somebody's been murdered, and that's why they get stuck there. And I didn't know that she was in this, but another actress that I recognized is Imogen Poots. She has a funny name. I liked her name. But I haven't seen too much with her. I have seen one or two movies with her in it. And she was in The Room, and she kind of ends up with the band and this kind of same situation. And other than that, we have the main leader of the skinheads who comes in later is Patrick Stewart. So kind of a rare role for him. I think a lot of people wanted to see this because of that. Seeing him play a villain, and he's pretty good as a villain here. So with all that being said, like I said, I don't want to get into too many of the spoilers and stuff, because this is a really good suspenseful thriller. Not really a mystery, but it's kind of, what are these band members going to do to get out of the situation? Can they get out of it? And it's super intense. It's really good. I don't think I've said I was yelling holy shit so many times when I was watching this. There are just so many instances that are they grab you, and they're either really brutal, There's a lot of violence in this, so just know that right off the bat. It's lots of graphic violence. There's something that happens with an arm that's gonna make you cringe, almost guaranteed. And there's some really good twists too. There's some pretty clever moments that I wasn't expecting, and it's kind of a very confined story. You know, it's not a lot of different locations. It's basically just this one bar. After the plot gets going, you know, they're just kind of stuck there. But still surprised me quite a bit with the plot and how good it is. One actor that I didn't recognize at all when he was in the movie is Mark Webber. He's the talent from Scott Pilgrim vs. the World. And he's in a couple other things too, but I didn't recognize him at all. He's one of the skinheads here. So that's pretty interesting. And then, let's see. There's like a couple funny things throughout the movie. They start doing this thing towards the beginning with the band. They're talking about like their desert island bands, and they're all, you know, it's like a pretty hardcore punk band, and so they're like, I can't. Well, one guy's talking about like Black Sabbath, another guy's like the Misfits, but then later, as their situation seems more and more dire, they kind of like somebody's like Madonna, and I think somebody else is Prince, and it's kind of like a little bit of humor in this very dark situation. I thought that was kind of funny. I know there are like a couple clever things they use, like they're trying to fight back these skinheads, and they use feedback in the speakers as like a weapon in one spot. It's really clever, so that's kind of funny. What else? Yeah, like I don't want to give too much away because you kind of just have to sit down and watch this. If you like suspenseful thrillers, it's not like I don't want to say murder mystery, but I don't know. It's really hard to describe, but it's really, really good. All the acting's awesome. Anton Yelchin's great in it. Patrick Stewart is, like I said, it's a very different role for him, but he's very, very ominous and kind of terrifying in a very subdued way. The best comparison is definitely Jeremy Saulnier's last movie, Blue Ruin. If you've seen that, that one had a very kind of suspenseful air to it, and then it gets kind of ramped up with action. I think this is a little more accessible, especially as more recognizable name actors, and it's a little bit quicker pace. Blue Ruin was a little bit slower, but also the main actor that Jeremy Saulnier works with, Macon Blair, he's in this too. He's one of the skinheads, and he's the main guy in Blue Ruin, and was also in Saulnier's other movie is called Monster Party, and I think Macon Blair is the main guy in that too. So yeah, it's kind of not the best review, but it's definitely a good movie. I'm giving it a 4.25 out of 5. I can definitely see why it's on people's best of lists. It just works. It's just from start to finish, it's a really, really good movie. It's not a happy-go-lucky movie. It's not in like Oscar contentions because they don't really look at these kind of movies. But it's definitely a very good movie, and it's really it's kind of sad, but it's good that Anton Yelchin, if this is one of his last roles, it's kind of good that he goes out on like a really high note. It's too bad, and pretty depressing to think about how young he is and probably the career he had ahead of him, but a very, very good performance for him. So Jeremy Saulnier is definitely a good director, a good writer. It'll be interesting to see what he does in the future. I also read that he kind of did this because his name's getting out there more, and he said he wanted to make this before he couldn't, and I could see that because probably once he gets a little more recognition and starts making bigger budget films, which hopefully he does, and I could definitely see him doing, it kind of makes sense. You're probably not going to be able to do something like this unless you're, Quentin Tarantino. But definitely worth a watch. So yeah, again, I'm giving it a 4.25 out of 5. All right.